Hi, my name is Frank Buck, and I want to talk to you about making the most of your life personally and professionally. You might ask how I can do that without ever having met you. Well, let's see if I might know something about you already. You're a person with goals. You have a great deal you want to achieve, but sometimes all of the little commitments in life hold you back. Your email inbox is overflowing. You're overwhelmed by your digital devices and the volume of available digital information. There's just too much. And it just seems there ought to be an easier way to navigate life. Well, how'd I do? If you're feeling digital overwhelm, join a very large club. I have plenty to do, but the only thing I'm thinking about right now is making this video for you. Everything else is trapped in my system, waiting its turn, and I can show you how to do it too. My new book, Get Organized Digitally, outlines a system to give you total control over your time and surroundings and the peace of mind that nothing is falling through the cracks. It was inspired by the situation in which we found ourselves when a pandemic overtook the world. If it hadn't been for technology, we wouldn't have had school at all in many places, and many businesses would have closed their doors for good. But because of the digital world in which we live, we're pushing our own personal frontiers. And this is the guide that can help you. In the introduction, you meet Sabrina on her first day as a principal. Her grandfather had been a long time and beloved principal at that same school. The introduction juxtaposes what it means to get organized in his days as a principal versus the challenges that Sabrina faces. It lays a foundation for the argument that to get organized requires different tools and strategies for school leaders now than in previous generations. Finally, the introduction prepares you for how to handle the challenges of a new normal, one in which we can and must be able to teach and learn from anywhere. The book is divided into three sections. In the first section, we explore digital notes. Chapter 1 begins with a preferred future, a brief illustration of how planning looks with a digital task list. The text goes on to reveal the 6 basic elements of a good digital system and argues why emphasis needs to be placed on the digital task list. As you read Sheldon's story, you see the overwhelm that the typical school leader faces, and it sets the stage for providing practical solutions. The chapter introduces Remember the Milk, a digital task manager. The remainder of the chapter walks you through step by step through the initial setup of Remember the Milk. You're encouraged to work hands on through the setup while reading the chapter. Chapter 2 concentrates on the 7 essentials, the 7 capabilities to look for when choosing a digital task list. There are 2 favorites of mine. One is the ability to just add with your voice. You know, with our mobile devices, the Achilles heel has always been input. Typing with 2 thumbs on a piece of glass on that phone is no picnic. But the whole time, voice input has become easier and easier. The ability to take the phone out of my pocket, speak into it, and the results of what I said wind up on my digital list, even with the correct due date. And the other is the ability to get my email inbox toward empty by forwarding those emails that are things to do right over to my digital task list. As you read through the chapter, I think you're going to enjoy Cedric's story. It gives you a look into the life of a school leader. The chapter shows you how he keeps up with the many details involved in his job. Chapter 3 identifies 3 elements of work: trap, organize, and do. You'll see a partial list of all the places where information is showing up that needs action on your part and how to funnel it all into one place. That digital task list serves as that place. You learn how to trap information. Next, you learn how to take that random information and organize it into an executable plan. Sheldon's story, Revisited, illustrates the transformation resulting from good use of a digital task list. And in a little section of the chapter called, Why Don't They Teach That in School? We take the concepts presented to this point in the book and relate them to the day-to-day life of a student. As with other chapters, this one concludes with suggested next steps. Chapter 4 is all about digital notes. Your information is only as good as your ability to put your hands on it when you need it. You'll learn the difference between digital documents and digital notes. And as with other chapters, this one looks at circumstances from the past and the procedures developed to handle them. It then shows how circumstances have changed and that procedures need to change accordingly. As you read about Jack's first national conference, you see a picture of how one school leader uses Evernote to trap and organize information while at an event. The story engages your interest in developing a good system of digital notes. Throughout the chapter, you see the use of Evernote as an example, while it also mentions other available options. You see how to get started with Evernote, and you're provided with specific suggestions for initial notebooks you'll need. And you'll see examples of the types of information that you could store for both your personal and professional lives. Chapter 5 develops the use of Evernote in the educational arena. You learn how to store information about the people and events in your life. You read about Jack, a character that you already read about in a previous chapter. You see how he uses Evernote to take notes during classroom visits and observations. You also see how Jack uses Evernote to trap information about unique situations as well as routine meetings. Teachers learn how to use Evernote to house lesson plans. The chapter develops the use of notebooks to organize information, and it introduces tags and stacks, two important organizational elements in Evernote. You'll see examples of specific tags and stacks that Jack uses in his personal and professional lives. You learn how to use the Evernote web clipper to trap information from the web and how to forward emails into Evernote and how to use templates. The chapter also explores the use of links to each note and sharing of information. The illustration with Jack shows how to review and organize information at the end of the day. Because Evernote offers both free and paid options, the chapter compares and contrasts the options. In the Why Don't They Teach This in School section, you see some specific ways that students can use digital notes. Chapter 6 continues with the distinction between digital notes and digital documents. It emphasizes 7 principles for organizing an easy to maintain digital filing structure. You'll learn how to organize Google Drive, even that dreaded Shared with Me folder. The third section of the book is called Rounding Out Your Digital Treasure Chest. Chapter 7 begins by arguing for the use of a digital calendar over its paper counterpart. At the heart of this argument is the change in which information arrives and how easy things are with a digital calendar. You're going to enjoy the brief history of digital calendars, and you'll really enjoy getting to know the Baileys in The Bailey's Story. You'll see how this family of husband and wife and several children make their lives easier through shared digital calendars. The chapter argues in favor of scheduling events through calendar invitations rather than traditional email messages. And it talks about automated schedulers as a means of reducing those back and forth communications trying to set up a meeting. In the section called Why Don't They Teach That in School? You'll see how digital calendars can benefit students. In Chapter 8, we hope to make email a friend again. The first half of this chapter addresses a process for getting your email inbox empty every single day. That process emphasizes classifying each email into one of 6 categories and handling it appropriately based on its classification. The story of Savannah's out-of-control email illustrates the problem and provides specific strategies. In this chapter, we use Gmail as an example, but the strategies that you read about are universally applicable. The second half of the chapter focuses on Gmail specifically with a section entitled Favorite Gmail Tricks. Each idea makes email easier to compose or easier to handle for those on the receiving end. In a section called Do Unto Others, you're going to learn specific options for communicating with large numbers of people, such as all of the parents within the school. Chapter 9 is about automation. We start by reviewing some concepts covered in previous chapters, which fall into the category of automation. We continue with an introduction to a service called If This Then That, and give specific examples that would be useful for the school leader. The section of the chapter entitled Voicemail, It's Not 1984 Anymore, explores best practice for minimizing telephone interruptions. We continue with Feedly for the blogs you love. Here, you're going to learn how to funnel content from numerous sources into one place. We discuss text expanders, Gmail templates, and filters which save time when composing information. The chapter continues with suggestions for proofreading via audio playback and the use of Hemingway editor to improve overall writing. The discussion of Hootsuite aids with automating social media content. The final examples of automation involve voice input. The Why Don't They Teach That in School section offers suggestions for using Hemingway editor, Read Aloud, and Otter.ai with students. The book concludes with chapter 10, School is Not a Place. During the pandemic, school buildings closed their doors. Students in countless areas around the world did not return to in-person learning for a year. This chapter touches briefly on the beginnings of distance learning, describes the challenges faced beginning in 2020, and redefine what the word school may mean going forward. The second half of this short chapter brings the book full circle. You revisit Sabrina, who had been the focus of the introduction. You read about how Sabrina met the digital challenges she faced when the book began, and the concluding paragraphs serve as a call to action for you and for me. The final 3 words of the text are also the 3 words on the cover of the book: get organized digitally. Having everything in its proper place allows us to enjoy what we have. That's why every New Year's Day, the common resolution is, this is the year I'm going to get organized. Well, the information age brings a challenge that will only become more significant going forward. How do I get organized? Digitally. Yes, we have the world's knowledge at our fingertips. We have unlimited storage capability. All we need is a system to leverage it. Thank you for spending this time with me. This has been Frank Buck, helping you get organized digitally and make it look easy.